Draft 1 for REVNA is complete. I read through it, I made my developmental edits and things that I wanted to change moving forward, and I came to the realization while planning Draft 2, I cannot just edit. I have to throw out the entire draft and try again. Before we start, I'm an author and an illustrator, so if you have any comments about writing or art, I will be more than happy to answer them in the comments. And of course, no writing process is easy unless you have your fur baby giving you cuddles. So, my game plan might be a little bit scary for some. I mean, you spend your entire year or so writing a whole draft and then you read it and now you're like, oh my god, are you throwing out the entire thing? And yes, I am, but none of those words feel wasted to me. I feel like I would be doing the story a complete disservice if I just edit and put it out there if I can. There's just too many things that I wanted to change, and I mean an entire perspective. I journaled about this again and again and again to see if I actually wanted to do this. I skimmed through the draft, as you can see, and there was just no way of integrating this perspective into the story in a way that was satisfying. I loved this character so much. They mean so much to me. The least I could do is bring them justice in story format. So I took a couple of days, I reread the thing again and again, just trying to find loopholes or some other way that, you know, I could keep all of this, because there were really good concepts in Draft 1. There were amazing lines, and I didn't want to let all of that go. It's not just about the work, everything about Draft 1 I wanted to keep, but it wasn't working. And I had to really think hard about how to integrate another perspective, who I'm going to pick, and it had to be someone who tied in the two other perspectives. So while I was thinking about this, I realized that I can't force my brain to just pick one of the cast who fits the mold the best. I had to just let it happen naturally. So I spent the whole morning away from writing rather than forcing something that just isn't coming. I took my mind off it with some games. I'm someone who will never rush myself when it comes to the process of writing, obviously to the detriment of everyone waiting for me to publish this book. I do take a great amount of pride and care in not just the writing quality, but the art as well. I would love to publish with my writing and my art going hand in hand in the same way that I created REVNA. REVNA started with art, and the art inspired the writing, and then the art of the map had inspired the entire world of REVNA. You know what, I could go on and on rambling about how much I love art and illustration, and I promise if you stay until the end you will see some examples of the art that I'm showing you. I get very, very special mail later on. But moving on. I was quite surprised that the same day I had some ideas. One of the ways that I like to proceed is to write around the thing that I don't know. So I write down everything that I do know. For example, right now I took up my writer's journal and I'm writing just 5 or 10 things that I loved about Draft 1, and it took some finding for me to see some things that I really loved about this, but then once I got going, I realized there were a lot of amazing components in Draft 1, despite how bad it was. So I wrote those down, and then I had some things that I hated, and some things that I was just indifferent to. I felt absolutely nothing, even though they were really significant plot points, or characters, or scenes, and I wrote everything down. I was missing a lot of things, and writing everything that I loved down showed me where I had to focus on in Draft 2. If I'm rewriting this entire book, I should be writing about something that I'm excited about, something that I love, something that I'm looking forward to. And these things, the things that I loved, were things that I was looking forward to when starting Draft 1. That Chapter 1 didn't have any of these things. These were plot points or characters or scenes that I really had to build up to. So I found that I had to find a character who tied in the previous two perspectives to each other. So I could sandwich all of their perspectives as I'm writing, and it would make sense and it would flow and it would hit that emotional component that I really, really love. I can't write just without feeling and without tension. Oh my god, tension is what I write for. Like two characters who will absolutely love each other in my fan art. When I'm writing about them, they have completely different feelings for each other. And I gravitate towards tension between characters and history between them, tenuous relationships, complex families. This is what I really, really gravitate to while writing. And it's no surprise I wrote an entire draft of the prequel novel. And that one, the first time I tried writing it, it was just raw. Everything that I just wanted to write about was just dumped on the page. No planning, nothing. And it showed me where I need to focus on in my writing, where the draft will pull me and I don't need to, sit down and suffer through a scene that I'm not invested in. I found another way to explore the parts around the gaps that I was experiencing, and that was to go through the draft again, write down in my writer's journal, which comes up a lot, everything that I had written in the margins of the chapters while annotating. This was an excellent way to go through my thoughts and to maybe look at it from a different perspective now that I was done with the book and I had read from chapter 1 to the end. There were small details that I found that I had forgotten, and reading through it allowed me to remember those things and to see where I needed to foreshadow and things that I had set up for draft 2. When I first started this project back in 2018, I did have a very clear vision for the beginning, middle, and end of the series as a whole. And it did change and evolve as the story itself changed and the characters changed, and different characters were more prominent as the years went by and as my art drove me into different ways. I speak about this a lot, but I genuinely feel like my art and my writing coexist in a way that if you take out one, you take out the other. I get so many ideas for art and illustration from my writing, and then I get many more ideas for my writing from the art. I mean, the whole the magic system that I created was based on illustrations that I did and parts of illustration which I loved doing. The real kicker here is that I had to actually stop doing my art. I had deactivated all of my social media during the time I was filming this. I had lost my cat, who was very special to me. I hadn't deeply lost anything or anyone in the past, so I took this very, very hard, and I stopped doing art completely, and this really affected my writing, but it was one of the reasons that pushed me to come back to this project and try again. What I didn't have before was a whole new project in the same world written at 22,000 words, and these 22,000 words had very, very, very little filler. I was very stuck to the actual plot that I had, the chapter breakdowns that I had written before actually writing that project. And so this really deepened a whole lot of lore of the world, the characters, the inner politics of the courts and vassals, and everything in even the magic system. There was like a whole new way of looking at it through this book. So looking for inspiration to create a new point of view character was easier. Before we move on, some of these comments that I left had me in shambles. Love this idea, if only you had the ability to write prose and subtext. Lol, possibly the worst way to introduce Fira. Fira is the magic. What do you mean? I am bored. I think if anyone could 1-star review this novel before reading it, I would be first in line, which is not a very good thing, but it's great because I don't feel very bad about it. I mean, I think I can improve, and hopefully I will. So with further ado, I had some ideas on how to do that, so let's see how that goes.
So I've just created a freeform document, and I'm going to use this to kind of plot out what my ideas are for draft number 2, because I have a lot of really, really big picture developmental edits and it's kind of overwhelming at this point because I'm basically replotting the entire novel. And in the last clips I showed kind of like writing the things that I love, the things that I hate, and the things that I'm kind of indifferent to, and then things that I've lost along the way in the draft. And I've added it to this. I will be referring to that as well as the plot chapter by chapter breakdown that I have done on my laptop. So I'm going to do that later, but first I'm going to add my new ideas and we'll see how that goes.
Instead of using Freeform to do this, I would usually do this traditionally, but I wanted to try out this app because I quite liked it before. And I needed something portable because when it comes to getting ideas, you don't know when you're going to get the next big idea. And I wanted to just like jot it down because I had my iCloud connected to this. So I got the colors that I used for the 3 perspective, and at this point I was still trying to salvage that 1 perspective, but I ultimately ended up deleting and was very adamant on deleting it, but it was very difficult to find a good candidate to replace them. So I tried my best to figure out the things that I liked about this perspective and the plot points that I needed to hit and the emotional beats as well, because all 3 perspectives bring something new and completely different to the table. So without spoiling, I'll try and explain what that is here. I had someone who was very hopeful first, and they were kind and done dirty by the entire world and everyone that they cared about. And then there was someone else who was really gritty, I would say. So essentially the tone needed to be broken up by this 3rd perspective. And I was trying to find someone, a character, who would fit this and tie in the themes. So quite a lot of work. The next day, after waking up feeling very rejuvenated, I get an email saying a package that I was waiting very, very patiently for has arrived. We couldn't go in the morning because the post office was closed, but the moment the afternoon came, I rushed out of the door with my dad and it was here. We got caught up in a rain shower, which was absolutely beautiful, but the book had arrived. Oh my gosh. This I had worked on a couple months prior, and there were many artists who collaborated on it. I was one of them, and I had illustrated the end pages for this book. I had worked with the Butterfly Bookshop once before to illustrate end pages, and it seems I did a good job because they hired me again and they shipped it to me. Look at this, that is my work, that's my art. That's my watermark. Oh my god, I spent hours on this and I had absolutely the best time. So actually, let me show you the illustration process. This was done in Procreate on my iPad, and I had sent in 2 sketches and they had picked this one. I was given a brief with a couple of reference images for inspiration. Nothing quite like one-to-one to how it came out, so I really hope that the author was happy with it. I didn't really get to speak to her at all. I was going through someone else who was then getting the information from the author. But receiving a package like this really made me feel absolutely rejuvenated and hopeful about what will come from my own writing. I mean, can you imagine receiving a package with your name on it, your book and your characters and your story? That would just be everything, right? And I think receiving this package wasn't just something for me, but it was also something tangible for my parents to hold on to. I mean, they've had so much of faith in me pursuing this creative path, and seeing something like that come in and being able to touch it and see that, you know, this is your daughter's creation. She illustrated this and people are reading it and buying it. And it was a huge motivator for me as well, because right after receiving that package, I went immediately back to my draft, trying my best to figure out a way to move forward and getting more ideas for the plot of draft 2. You can ask any writer. The journey to a completed book is long and grueling, but it doesn't have to be lonely. Even if it's just me sitting alone in my room in 10 years' time with my finished book, reading back the thought process that I had while drafting this novel, or the YouTube videos that I'm making, all of these things are an art on its own. It's not just the day that I finally get this book complete that will be something that I really, really love and really cherish in my mind. It's this entire journey of writing and remembering everything that I took, every step that I took closer to the final draft. I hope me sharing my journey makes you a little more hopeful for yours, despite the climate of whatever you might be going through while watching this. I think your art is 100% worth sharing, so stay hopeful and stay creative, and good luck on finishing whatever you are working on right now. Thank you so much for staying until the end. I do have a Patreon which you can support for free or for I think $1 or $2 is the lowest tier, and I have my commissions open at the moment, so if you would like some art of your characters, I have my prices up on Instagram. And I really do love connecting with the community here, so if you have something about your story, drop it down below and I will interact with you.